Good morning, everybody. Afternoon, maybe evening for some of you. I'm Paul Carruthers, the communications manager for MotoAmerica, and this is our weekly podcast, Off Track with Carruthers and Bice. I'm joined by Sean Bice, and down below there, I'm joined by Mathew Scholtz. First of all, I got to let everybody know that we're back. It's been a long time. We kind of took a little break there, a little hiatus, and now we're back. I guess that was the off season, and we can kind of call this the preseason. So we wanted to start out with one of our champions, and we couldn't think of a better one than two-time MotoAmerica Supersport champion Mathew Scholtz. Matthew, you had an incredible season, and that followed up what was already an incredible season. You got 19 wins over the course of those 2 years, and now you're going to go superbike racing. So let's start with talking about this year. I mean, you have to be chuffed at how well it went.
Yeah, obviously it was the first year the R9 was coming out, second year with the Strack Racing team, and I mean it was just a brilliant season. I think we got 11 out of 18 wins, set some track records along the way, and yeah, I mean it was just awesome bike ride out of the box, and just the season started off a little bit rocky for us. I think you know, crashed at Barber, ran off the track at Road at America. But I think the second half of the season, we really seem to have found something with the setup, and I think we took seven out of the last eight wins to take the championship. Overall, extremely happy.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, I mean, Matthew, I don't know if you're going to consider it your most successful season ever, but it sure was in stats. I mean, the number of records you broke, the most you had the most wins. I mean, your first year, 2017 in super stock with Westby Racing, you had 10 wins that year, including a superbike race. But this was unbelievable this year, especially for the first year of that bike. That's great for the manufacturer. You got to feel pretty good about, and you defended your number one plate, which is never easy to do. So you got to feel pretty good about the past year, even though it wasn't the premier class, and we're going to talk about that. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I think taking the championship in 2024, to me it was kind of like racing against PJ. It was, just myself and him. But this 25 season, there were so many strong guys out there. And I think in the second half of the season, there were multiple guys running up front, getting podiums. So, but yeah, like you were saying, it was the R9's first year out, and I was a little bit worried about it because obviously any brand new bike coming into a championship, it's kind of difficult to get the gearing and setup right. And I kind of knew from the preseason testing that this R9 was something special. Fortunately for us, the World Supersport guys kind of helped us out with the setup, so we were had a really strong package off the bat, and yeah, just went from strength to strength throughout the season.
It seems like the R6. I mean, I think you ride hard all the time. No, obviously, you don't win races without riding hard. Did that take a lot more effort to get what you got out of it, or is that not the case?
I just think that the high RPM of the R6 made it a little bit more difficult to kind of ride in that particular window. Needed to keep the R6 going, whereas the R9, you've got so much torque. I think there were a couple of tracks that we were, in the 5,000 RPM range, and to me, I like the bike a little bit more, like dull, that I can kind of use my hand a little bit more, and the R9 really kind of had that strength, which was good for me, good for my riding.
yeah, Matthew, do you ergonomically did you fit better on the R9 than you did on the R6?
I think so. It definitely seems to be a bit of a bigger bike, but overall, I think on the R6 or the R9, we were working on pulling the foot pegs back, pushing the handlebars a little bit forward. So, I'm always comfortable on it.
You know, beginning with the beginning of the year, you mentioned it was a little tough in the beginning. Well, that's understandable with a brand new bike, and you tested a little, but you didn't test a ton with it. And the bike was good, but obviously it's a credit to the development that you and your team did on that motorcycle. And my gosh, the last couple of rounds, you talked about the number of you broke a ton of track records, and one thing that will never be well. will remember it, but one thing that doesn't really get noticed in a record book is, for instance, at New Jersey, you broke your record that you kept breaking all weekend. So you broke it like 5 times. It's like, oh, you got
Yeah.
5 track records at New Jersey, but it really ended up being one. So, but those last couple of rounds, my gosh, what was that? I don't know that you can bear down any harder than you do anytime you race. So I don't know if it was that, but you just dominated the last couple of rounds.
Yeah, I mean, I think that one of the biggest changing points for this season was that we had the Japanese Dunlop rear tire, and I think that that was really difficult for me to kind of get a good feeling. It just seemed that that when we first started using it, that I was kind of struggling to get a feel of where the tire was, and I was only kind of getting a feeling from it once it was like too far sideways, you know. So I was kind of getting spit out of the seat a couple of times, and I think it was maybe at the halfway point of the season we found a really good setup there. And like you just said, the second half of the season was, you know, really positive for us. And it just seemed that I was comfortable. I was able to kind of have a feeling of what the bike was doing, and I was able to kind of ride it how I wanted to. You know, if I wanted to kind of spin the rear tire to help me finish the corner, I could. And you know, that's just a testament to my crew chief Jordan and the Strack guys that they were able to kind of find such a good setting, and overall just ended off the season on a really high note at Jersey. But I do have to say that those records are a little bit cheated. They have changed the first corner slightly to make it a little bit quicker for us. But yeah, maybe we shouldn't let the public know that one.
Oh
Well,
yeah,
it's
not
still the
only
same for everybody, though.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
exactly.
I guess
You
so.
didn't have
I'll
your
take
own lane.
it. I'll take it.
You know,
So
it's funny.
winning, oh, sorry, go ahead, Sean.
Just wanted to say about Coda. You know, I don't know if you saw Garrett Gerloff at Coda. You probably did. You know, he's funny. You know, you broke his records and JD's records that were longstanding for quite a while. You know, 2017 or 18, I think, something like that. And Tim Robinson, who works with Garrett a lot, wanted to point out, well, it is an R9 versus an R6. And I said, yeah, I know, but those R6s back then were kind of like mini
Yeah.
super bikes. So
Yeah, I mean, also, I don't want to try to toot my own like horn here, but if you look at the top end speeds, their R6s back then were extremely
Fast.
quick, you know. But we've got all of the torque now. We've got better tires, so it is definitely harder to compare. But it's not as simple as saying, well, it was a 600 cc versus a 890, whatever it is, you know. So
right, 890.
there are, you know, quite a few factors going into
Yeah, I mean, we
it.
weren't restricting anybody back then. I mean, it was,
Yeah.
you know, what? So winning 5 races in a row to end the season, that's obviously what earned you the championship. Is there any one of those races that stands out as like, man, that was a good one? Is and also for part two of that question, is are those races more fulfilling when you win a battle or when you just smoke them?
I mean, both of them feel good to be honest. But I mean, I would say that the second race at Mid Ohio was a really big changing point for me. I think we were only a couple points up on PJ there. He won Saturday's race. I finished third. I think he closed it down to 3 points. And you know, Sunday morning's warm up, we kind of tried something on the setup, and we were 1.2 seconds off. You know, so I went into the second race panicking, you know, thinking that if I finish third again and PJ wins, we're now going to be a couple points down going into Coda and to Jersey. And then, yeah, fortunately, I just pulled one out of my ass, and yeah, you know, I won Sunday's race and kind of opened up the points gap from there. And which would say that that was definitely the best race of the season for me, kind of pulling that one back. That PJ and Cam seemed to definitely have the pace there, and the R9s just didn't seem to be as good as they were there at the previous tracks. So I think that one definitely stands out for me.
Yeah, Matthew, let's go back and talk about the Japanese Dunlops a little bit. And I want to equate it to something and have you explain a little bit what that all means because obviously they do Dunlop closed their plant in North Tonawanda where they were manufacturing tires right in the Buffalo kind of area, and they've been doing it for a long time and very proud of the US made Dunlops. And you can take and tire manufacturing is a lot like a recipe for, I don't know, cookies or anything else. So let's use that. An example was, gosh, my grandmother, nobody made better chocolate chip cookies to me than my grandmother. And Pam, my wife, has the recipe, and I mean they're great, but they're not my grandma's cookies. I mean, they just
Nothing
aren't.
like grandma's cookies, eh?
Yeah, and Japanese Dunlops, I don't know. Maybe, they have the ingredients. There's some mixture that goes into it. There's going to be something a little bit different. What in your mind was a little bit different about the Japanese Dunlops versus the American Dunlops, the US Dunlops?
The biggest thing to me, I would say, is that the Japanese tire, it seemed that when you picked up the bike, you got more grip as you picked up the bike. It seemed like the US Dunlops, you had quite a bit of grip on the side of the tire, but as you picked it up, you didn't really gain more grip until you got past a certain point. Then you had all of the grip in the world. So it was kind of hard to kind of feel at that bottom end of the bike, leaning over between, I'd say, 55 and 45 degrees kind of thing. You didn't really seem to actually gain more on a like traction between that angle. Whereas the Japanese tire, you did seem to. So that kind of, I definitely am not good at picking up the bike coming out of corners, so I think that definitely helped me roll through the corners a little bit better.
Was it on corner exit or corner entry or both that you've noticed that grip issue difference?
But it's definitely coming out of the corner. To me, it's
Yeah.
kind of rolling on the throttle. It just seemed that you had a little bit more grip rolling on until you got the bike sliding. Like
And
like
can
you,
it
you could kind of roll on the gas sooner. That was my feeling from it.
is it attributable at all to the torque of the R9 coming out? You obviously had better torque grunt.
Again, it's kind of hard to directly compare
Yeah.
because the one tire I was on the R6, now we're on the R9, but we did back to back then during the preseason testing. But, again, it's hard to tell because we were always changing, setup on the bike, swing arm length, lengths, whatever it is. So it's really hard to get a direct comparison because we were more worried about lap times and making the bike better more than directly testing tires. So, but overall, that was my feeling.
Hey, Matthew, I just thought of something I've never asked a rider before. I'm going to ask you this, and you're the perfect person to ask. So, would you actually, if you ever had the chance to ride every bike in the class, Supersport, just to see what they're like, would you want to do that to kind of do a comparison and see what's going on there? I mean, I know your ergonomics are different. You'd have to have this bike set up for you, but just in general, would that be kind of an interesting thing to do?
Yeah, definitely. I think it would be nice once my career's done to just kind of ride every single bike and feel the M out. But I think for now, I wouldn't want to kind of ride the V2, then the R9, then that bike, because then you kind of start being like, man, I really wish that I'd had that feeling here or I'd had that here. I think that sometimes it's better just to ride what you're riding and just go from there. But it would be nice to kind of just to compare and just to kind of see because I think this season with all of the different bikes, it was pretty obvious that every bike has their own strength in certain parts of the corners or of the track.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, I have a question. We're going. We've already told everybody, and everybody seems to know already anyway, that you're going to go race a superbike next year. Did
Yes.
these going into these 2 years with Strack Racing, you weren't overly impressed that that's where your career path had taken you. But now, if you look back at it, it might end up being the best thing that ever happened to you because from watching from the outside looking in, this might have made you a better superbike racer.
Yeah. Hindsight is a beautiful thing, right? Obviously moving down to the Supersport class was it seemed to me like I was moving backwards, but like you said, over the last 2 years, it's been brilliant taking two Supersport championships and kind of being able to show that I am a top guy again, and just to be able to kind of have the opportunity just to come back in the championship and ride. Strack Racing have been brilliant, and now they knew where I wanted to be, and they put their money where their mouth is, and they're stepping up to the superbike class. And it's going to be difficult first year out, but I'm very confident they've shown that they're a brilliant, competent team, that they're able to kind of produce championship winning motorbikes. And I think that it's going to be difficult for the first couple rounds, but we should get better as the season goes on. And I have no doubt that within the next year or two, that we should be, hopefully competing for some Superbike wins.
Okay, so you went from one family team, Westby
I
Racing, to
know.
to
Yeah.
another family team, and that seems to be that fits in your comfort level, right? I mean, isn't that something that you kind of enjoy, and that atmosphere is kind of, I mean, everybody wants a factory ride, don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
sometimes it's not for everybody.
No, I mean, I just really like the atmosphere of it being calm, relaxed. Even though they were both considered family teams, I think everyone's going there to win. Somebody's spending a lot of money to be there. But when I get somewhere, I like to kind of know that it's going to be a continued team, a continued deal, because I think that going to every single race, riding for your career is a little bit difficult. It takes that pressure off. And yeah, I think that Peter and Jessica Strack are very particular about who comes into the team because it is so friendly and family orientated. They don't want to kind of ruin that. So I'm just happy that I've become part of it and I'm leading the charge for them, I guess.
Yeah, Matthew, it's funny. I don't know if you can think of two families that are more different than Westby Racing and Strack Racing. You might talk about the calm on Strack Racing. There wasn't a lot of that on Westby, so I think that changed a little bit, didn't it, when you got with Peter and Jessica?
Yeah, no, things are very calm over there. It's always a brilliant vibe there, and I think that it's very easy for things to be calm when you winning championships. I think I might get a little bit stressed out in this superbike class, but it's
Yeah.
still going to be a learning curve for us. Fortunately for me, I've been there before. So I know that I'm going to have to kind of lead us forward, and but I'm looking forward to the challenge of stepping up with this drag racing team to Superbike in 26.
It is a big step, right? I mean,
It's a
just the
big,
whole
big
the
step.
whole program of a super sport program. Okay, you've got the truck and you've got the crew, but that's about where it ends as far as the difficulty of what the task is going to be, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is just realizing how close and fast all the Superbike guys are. I think this year, for the most part, a couple of the Supersport guys separated ourselves, and to me, a bad race was like a third or a fourth kind of thing. Whereas the Superbike class is so strong now that a bad race could be seventh, eighth place. But again, it's having to just deal with software. There's more track time, there's more changing of tires during these session, there's more guys needed to be there, and I think there's just a lot more things that can go wrong. Um but overall, these track guys have proven that they're able to kind of produce championship bikes, and they were one of the top teams, and I know that we will be ready for the upcoming season.
Yeah, Matthew, so early on last year, probably the first round or second round, I remember talking to you and I know you were still kind of lamenting, and probably were still this year a little bit, that you weren't with the Superbike riders, and it's completely understandable. And at this point with your career, there isn't a lot of advice that I can give you, but one of the things I said to you at the time was just stack up the wins, win some championships. I mean, you won 19 Supersport races. You really dramatically increased your career wins. And I know stats are stats, but we keep track of them. You've got 34 wins now. You're eighth ranked among active AMA riders. You're 17th all time in wins. So one of the things that did is it certainly put a lot on your resume. But the other thing it did is I know you didn't forget to know how to win. You still knew how to win, but there's something about understanding how to win. It happens in other sports, stick and ball. It's like you got to remember how to win, and that's important. And you got a bunch of wins now. So going into Superbike, maybe that's going to help you a little bit with that, even to, be in the mix and know what you have to do. And Supersport was no joke. Obviously, PJ, Blake Davis, your teammate, took it to you a few times, and some of the other guys did too, for sure. I mean, Tyler Scott, started get going again. So
Yep.
there's a lot of competition, and you're going to go right into the Lions Den again this year. But you learn some things, I think, don't you? Don't you?
Yeah, I think these last 2 years really proved to be positive for me in the sense that I might have figured something out, riding wise. Because again, with the super sport class, you're not working on, the EB too much or your torque maps and everything else. It's kind of for the most part, once you find a comfortable setup, it's more just and that's why a lot of the practice sessions, I just spend laps and laps out on the track, because on this super bike, I think maybe I got caught up in the concept of trying to get the bike perfect for every single corner, because with the software packages allowed there, you can change the torque map for corner one to corner two to corner three. So maybe when I was riding the motorbike, I was concentrating too much on, maybe I should soften the torque here and add more of this here while I was riding the bike. Whereas I think these last 2 years on the super sports, I was just more concentrating on the feeling of the bike and the feedback that I was actually getting from it and the tires and everything else. And I think that's kind of really helped my riding and given me something else to kind of think of and moving up to the superbike class and next year, and it's just to kind of worry about the riding and the feeling first and then the setup second. So I think that moving up to the class and competing with all of these top guys again is going to be extremely difficult, is going to be challenging, but I feel that if we carry on working hard, sticking to our path that we know works, and that we will be able to kind of challenge for some podium spots.
I don't know if you know the answer to this. You probably do, but like I envisioned, like, is there going to be attack help? Or are you guys on your own? How's that going to work? Is it? Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you
I
know?
mean, again, I don't know how much I can say, but my understanding is that the attack guys are going to help us out with the beginning package of the motorbike. Whether we run that throughout the season or we change a couple of parts, I'm not sure, but we will be on the R1. We actually have a test coming up soon, so I'm really looking forward to that. But overall, I've been on the R1 before. Looking forward to getting back on it. I know it's going to scare the piss out of me the first couple of laps, but I'm looking forward to it. But otherwise, yeah, I think just starting off slow, getting a good base set up, and then just working on consistency throughout the season will be a good starting point.
I remember very well when you were at Westby and that superbike, you had a different swing arm than the Attack Boys had, and you kind of coveted that swing arm that Richard Stanboldi had, and maybe you're going to get it now because I know Attack's going to be a technical partner. I mean, Peter has told us that, so I'm curious as to whether you will get that swing arm. If that swing arm is what it was before, it's been a couple of years now. The bike's been developed quite a bit more from at that point too, but it seems like you're maybe going to get some more things than you might not have been able to get with Westby before. Is that what your hope and understanding maybe?
Yes, respectfully speaking, the Westby bike was a brilliant bike, no doubt, loved it, awesome team, love all those guys, but I just felt like maybe it wasn't up to the same level as what the Attack Factory bike was. So you're kind of always riding, having that thought of like, oh, maybe if I had that swing arm or that software package, that I would be better. But it seems now that I should be getting whatever those guys have. So if I'm not up to speed, it's on me, So obviously, I know that Strack still has to learn the ropes of the superbike class, slightly. But overall, I'm getting the top package, and if I don't perform, that's on me, So I'll better step it up, I guess.
Matthew, will
Go
you
ahead.
have this? Sorry, will you have the same crew that you had this last year in Superbike? Same crew chief, same crew?
Yes, I'm going to have the same crew chief Jordan. We're going to
Yes.
have, I don't want to speak on anything else, I guess, but yes, I will have the same crew chief and mostly the same guys working on the bike. But overall, Jordan is definitely there. I think it's his debut in the Superbike class. But overall, he's proven throughout the season that he's capable of it. He's, obviously gave me a perfectly set up bike, and we work well together, and I'm very happy that we're moving up together.
Blake Davis, he To me, I know a lot of people think the same way. I think he could be, one of those future stars for us. He's young, he's fast, he's a nice
He's a
kid.
star now, buddy.
Well, you know what I mean. Right. No, you're right. But I mean like superbike type guy
No,
or
yeah, no, of
or
course,
or
of
even
course.
going overseas or whatever. He seems to have the package. How much help were you able to give him? Obviously, you still had to beat him, but I don't
Yes.
think that prevented you from helping him in any way. And will you continue to help him, especially so that you won't be in the same class and maybe you can see him a little bit more on the track or however that works?
Well, firstly, this was my first season having a teammate since I came into this championship,
Yes.
so I was a little bit worried about that, but Blake proved that he was a awesome guy, brilliant family. So working with him was just great. We kind of compared notes sometimes about setup, how we felt on the bike, and there were parts of the season where him and Chubby had a totally different setup to what myself and Jordan did. And we kind of learned a couple of things from them. They learned from us. But overall, I think that he spent a lot of time looking at my data, which was awesome, and I'm very happy that he was able to maybe learn a couple of things there. But overall, I'm not teaching Blake anything. He's a top rider. He won races. I think that he really proved that he will be one of the favorites for the 26th season in the Supersport class. That's a for sure.
I agree.
Matthew, is there anything that Blake Davis does on, well, let's say on the R9, the same bike that you were on, that you can't understand what he's doing? Is there anything at all?
On the brakes, I mean, I like to think that if I'm riding next to some guy coming into a corner and it went down to have a brake latest, I always back myself. But there were a couple of times I got up next to Blake Davis and he went in there deeper, and I was like, oh, he's not making it. He's running wide, and he would make it somehow. So I think he has a very good feeling for the front end of the motorcycle and braking late. But yeah, I think just the main thing that any young guy has to learn is not to charge the corners too much, not to make up too much time braking. But overall, like you were saying, Blake's a very talented youngster, and he's definitely got a few future titles coming up for him.
Yeah, and
That
he's
late
very,
breaking thing's the hardest thing to not do, though, right? I mean, because it's instant gratification. It's instant
Exactly.
gratification.
Yeah. I mean, you're busy following a guy. You just brake, and you modulate the brakes and just gain one or two bike lengths just to close the gap slightly. But what's the point of gaining two bikes coming in if you are losing four leaving the corner? But yes,
Yeah.
it is the instant satisfaction of just closing a couple of bike lengths.
Matthew, how much did you weigh at New Jersey?
New Jersey, I mean, probably around the like 167 mark, 166 mark.
It's unbelievable. When you were with Westby, were you ever that? Were you ever 167?
Yes, yeah. On the superbike, I'm usually about there. I think
Okay.
the lightest that I ever got to was on the R6. There was a stage I was 156 pounds at 6'1". I was about to fall through my own butt at one stage. But yeah, I mean, this year the R9 with the added torque could definitely help me that I could, kind of keep some weight on me. Because, I'm a very big advocate of being strong on the bike. Obviously you don't want to try to muscle it and force things, but I definitely think that having a little bit of muscle helps out.
I want to talk about that muscling of the bike a little bit, and I want to talk about when you're. Okay, I call you black velvet and cold steel because you're smooth. You're all sweet. You're all sweetness and smooth, and you get off the bike and you're great to talk to, and sometimes
Uh,
you even maybe I don't know if you regret, but you're a badass on the track, and we know that's manifested itself in some rivalries. It was interesting with PJ this year. Uh, Talk about you on a motorcycle. You kind of take no prisoners, but you're a nice guy, Matthew. I mean, but maybe you're not that nice a guy on a bike. I don't know.
He's a nice guy until you get in his way.
Yeah.
I'm a nice guy until something happens on the track, I like to think. But I mean, yeah, I definitely let the emotions get the best of me sometimes on the track. It's just such a volatile situation for me. Like, picture you at work, you got to get this done by this time, and then there's somebody sitting there preventing you working or looking at the screen or something. You're going to get angry, right? So just, unfortunately, I was caught a couple times getting pissed off at people waving hands and whatever else. And I'm sorry for it. You really shouldn't behave like that. But overall, I like to think I'm a nice guy. But yeah, I mean, when you're on the track and the vase is down, you're there to win. You're not making friends. And I think, fortunately for me, this season, really good friends with Cam Peterson, Blake Davis. Even though we had a few really hard battles and passes, we were able to kind of laugh it off afterwards and, just have fun. Because overall, everyone races because they love it, they want to be there. And, sometimes passes are made a little bit aggressively and, but it's not through any malice, it's just racing hard and, sometimes things happen, but overall, I like to try to be as friendly as I can. I love being at the paddock. I love being around people at the track. I love the vibe. Yeah, but overall, it is just awesome to be out there and just to try to be a little bit calmer, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not having fault with it. I think it's who you are, and I think everybody understands that. I don't know if PJ Jacobson is going to like what I'm going to say right now. Um, he might, and I'll apologize to him later. I don't know if this is true. I don't know if this was you. It felt like at Coda after the press conference where they announced that he was in Superbike. Do you think he conceded a little bit the championship? It seemed like either you stepped it up like crazy, which I think you did, but was PJ all there at those last two races, did you feel?
On the track, PJ always is one of the hardest races. He pulls it out when he needs to. I got a lot of respect for that. Um, but yeah, it just seemed like the vibe amongst the Rahal guys kind of changed a little bit, whereas I would notice usually if I beat PJ, obviously he wasn't pumped on it, but after Coda on the podium, going to the media center afterwards, he was extremely happy and talkative and smiling, and I congratulated him on the Superbike ride. So I just noticed a bit of a difference there, but I don't think anything changed on the track. I think that guy is a warrior. He rides hard, and um, it seemed like the Warhorse team and Cam Peterson stepped up a lot in the last couple of races to kind of be the top V2 rider.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like
and
you said, a lot of times these riders don't know what they're doing until the last minute. And the feeling is
Yeah,
obviously really nice for you knowing now that you're going, there's guys that'll be in January not knowing what they're doing yet. And I think for
and it's
PJ,
scary. Yeah,
yeah, that's not a good thing. I wouldn't want to know that if I had a job in another couple of months. But
yeah,
but with PJ, I think the difference from him, I think, like you said, on the bike he was pretty much the same. But I think off the bike, I think he just had that relaxed feeling of knowing what he was going to do the next year. And I
yes,
mean,
yeah.
everybody's like, that's a comfortable feeling for people to have, and a lot of them aren't used to it. So that was probably what that was. But I don't know.
Yeah, whether it was also just to be able to get a contract, but I think also to also know that you're sticking with the same team and moving up to the superbike category. It must have been a awesome feeling, and it definitely would have taken pressure off. But overall, I'm looking forward to kind of battling with those guys again in the superbike class. So it will be fun.
Did you know about Cameron Bovier's deal in advance, or did that catch you off guard, or were you surprised, or you kind of knew it was happening?
I mean, you hear rumors of people talking about it, so I kind of knew something was going to happen there. But yeah, I think it's a very big shock for most of the public, to obviously get rid of Heron. Well, I mean, I don't know if they're getting rid of Josh or Josh is leaving on his own, but it's just it was a very big deal to kind of not have Josh there as the main guy. But yeah, I think Bobby on that thing is going to be incredible. I think he's going to be the main guy to be obviously he's the champion moving in. He was strong on the Tartar's BMW, but I think that this V4 is a little bit of a step up. So we've got some of our work cut out for us. And then yeah, Ben, he's obviously a cool guy. I think the last 2 years have been a really big learning curve for him, but I think he's going to make quite a big jump moving on to this bike.
Yeah, what a crazy change for him to be on that Ducati and be with Cameron. Cameron struggled mightily these past 2 years. It's incredible that he did win that championship at New Jersey. Great for
Yep.
him. He when he broke his heel, he was probably at the point where he was going to give it up. But now he's not, absolutely not. He's got a recharge of his batteries, obviously on that bike. He knows what that bike can do. It's a tall order for him. It's a tall order for you guys. But man, the challenge is you love a challenge, don't you, Matthew?
Yeah, no, I'm up for it. I think that the Cameron on the BMW, I think that the window of the setup is so small. When that thing was working right, Cameron was incredible, but it seemed that if it wasn't perfect, that the bike is extremely difficult to ride. So I think that Cam on the V4, the window of having a really competitive motorbike is a little bit bigger. I think that Ducati has shown to be the top bike right now in this superbike category. And yeah, for me, stepping up, I think the biggest thing again is just going to get used to the traction control and everything else, and going 200 something miles an hour. But yeah, like you said, I'm looking forward to the challenge and just getting back on track with the big dogs again. Just to be able to kind of be on the track again with Bobier, Heron, Fong, Sean, Peterson, Jacobson. It's going to be challenging, but I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I called you a couple weeks ago and you didn't know the answer to this, and maybe you do now and won't say. But one of your good friends from South Africa, we'd heard some rumors about Darren Binder coming into our series. Still haven't
Yeah.
heard anything more about it, whether it's going to happen. I don't know where he's going to slot in, where he would fit. Have you caught up with him and do you know anything?
No, no, I haven't spoken to him about it yet, but it will be cool to have him in the paddock. I think there's a fair few South African guys. We all seem to be pretty competitive, and obviously, Darren spent a ton of years in the Moto2 class. So whatever bike that guy hops on, he's going to be riding at the front of the field. That's for sure.
Yeah, Matthew, will you be going back to last year? You went back to South Africa for quite a while, actually, a couple of months it felt like. Our Thanksgiving to Christmas. Are you going to be going back there for a length of time? I mean, I know you got some testing coming up here. Are you going to fit in some time to go back?
I would like to. I love going back home just to see family and friends, but I think that we've got a few tests coming up now. We haven't confirmed any dates, but as soon as I know then, I'll have to kind of look at that. But I've spoken to the team and I've just mentioned, I'm like, hey guys, I'm very happy not to go home. As long as we're out there riding and testing, I'm more than happy to be here in the freezing cold. Because when I go back home, it's like summer there. So
Yeah.
I'm on the beach, riding my motocross bike, surfing, hanging out. Everything's cool, man. But then I'm sitting over here in the freezing cold. But I think that the Strack guys are taking this very, very seriously. So we're going to have a lot of testing done before the season starts to make sure that we get to the first race and we're ready to go. So these guys are ready. I'm ready. So hopefully we do lots of testing, and I'll be here.
I'm guessing some of those tests will probably be out this way, like Arizona. I know
The West
Attack
Coast
goes
side,
there.
yeah, yes,
Yeah.
yes, I'm guessing so. Again, for now, I don't know how much I can say where we're going riding, whatever. But yeah, it seems that most of the tests will be on the West Coast. I think that the weather's a little bit better.
Hmm.
But yeah, we have one test coming up soon. And yeah, I think just looking forward to getting back on the big pony again.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
done with him if you are, Sean.
Yeah, I mean Benjamin Smith told me the other day that he has a V4S track day bike and he's gonna go to Roebling Road I think this weekend. So he's gonna do some of his own testing. I don't know what the weather's gonna be like there, but this is projecting forward a little bit, Matthew. I think we've kind of discussed this a little bit. I like to check in with you. You and Kiara are pretty much Georgians now, and you're pretty much kind of Americans. I won't take South Africa away from you, but I don't picture you going back there and living your life in South Africa when you're done racing. Are you going to stay in this country?
I'll plan on it.
Yeah.
I love it here. I've created a life here. I've got friends outside of the racing. I know everything. The thing is, just how the country works is great. I love all the people here. I've got a really awesome group of friends. But I think that the hardest thing is just to not have my family here. Brother, mom, and dad. We were a really close family, so it's just I think that that's the hardest part. For me, best case scenario would be to bring them here, but unfortunately, that's not how things work. But yeah, I mean, hopefully, I have a couple years left of my career over here, so I'll definitely be around. But it's going to be a very difficult choice about staying here or moving back home. That's for sure.
Yeah, you're still young. I'm not trying to retire you yet. You don't give up for a while. You
Hopefully
got
not. Shit.
now that you're back up with the big boys again, keep it going. And I
Yeah.
mean, I know your mom and dad probably would come over, but you got your brother over there, and what's Dean the Dream up to these days? Is he ever going to come to America and live?
For now, no. He got a new job back home. So I think that he's really enjoying that. But yeah, I think that next year we're gonna try to get him out to one of the races. And yeah, Sean, you're busy talking about, hopefully I've got a few more years of my career left. It's actually funny talking about Blake earlier on. It was crazy having a teammate that was almost half my age. Uh, and and I'm not old, right?
No, you're
So
not.
that just
Right.
proves how young Blake is. But yeah, I was kind of also in the Supersport class. Was like, man, I'm racing against kids that weren't even born when I was finishing school. So,
Right.
so
Well,
yeah,
it's funny. I was saying to Bobier, it's like the way Josh Hayes was to Cameron. Cameron is to Benjamin Smith a little bit because Benjamin's like 25 years old, so
yeah. I
he's a little
mean,
younger.
yeah, Benjamin's going to learn so much,
Yeah.
working alongside Bobier. I know Bobier became the winningest rider halfway through the season somewhere. So to just be able to learn from him, I think Ben's going to make some huge strides forward this season.
Well, yeah, and speaking of being completely ingrained in what's going on over here in America and the friends you have in Georgia, you have a lunch date. So we're gonna let you go so
Yeah,
you can do that, Matthew. But your dance card is full with socially as well as riding next year. So it's good to hear, and we're looking forward to seeing you back on a superbike.
awesome guys. Thanks so much. Yeah, I mean, brilliant season. And just looking forward to 26, and thank you for everything that the Strack Racing and the MotoAmerica Championship would have done for me. Back with the big boys again after leaving, and just hopefully carrying on moving forward.
I'll see you this off season. I'll sneak into a few of those tests.
Yeah, no,
You'll
perfect. We
see me
would
out
love
in the
to have you out
cactus.
there, yeah, taking photos from the bushes on the side or
Yeah.
something.
All right. You
Oh,
take care,
perfect.
Matthew.
You guys, I got see ya.
See ya.
Thank you.